loud, guys?
Yes. No, it's fine.
Very fun.
The merge, the splurge, the Verge, the purge. We're just live, and yeah, that's it. We actually weren't even being very organized tonight, but nonetheless, it'll be entertaining for you guys. So, guys, I guess we haven't really even decided what we're gonna call this little thing. Do we? Do we know yet?
I don't know.
Tech thoughts. Tech thoughties.
Tech thoughts.
Tech thoughts. Spelled THOT.
THOT. Tech. Your thoughts with tech thoughts. So guys, I don't know. We'll figure out the name of this group later on, and it's not really so relevant because we're just going to think of something cool and trendy and something blah 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 blah. Insert whatever kind of cool adjective here. But tonight we're going to talk about the Ethereum Merge, Purge, Verge, Splurge, whatever. All these different words that Vitalik is putting on the new Ethereum update, or rather the merge. I talked about this on the channel a while ago. Fido, I know you did too.
Mm-hmm.
Let me at the least share with the audience this so we can say it correctly. Okay, so first they're going to have the merge, right? And then they're going to have this section called the purge, and then the Verge. So first we're going to have the merge, then the surge, then the Verge, and then the purge, and the splurge. And really, the thing that I guess we wanted to talk about the most tonight is this part, right? The purge, because I'm pretty sure this is the part that entails removing all the miners from the network. So I've kind of given some opinions on this before, but if you guys want, we can go around and we can go and just, if you guys can tell me how y'all think about it. So what do you think, Cody? We can start with you. In particular, what do you think is a net positive or a net negative? And I guess if you think it's neutral, you can just say that too. But I would call bullshit because I think it's got to be at least good or bad. What do you think is inherently good or bad about after the merge rolls out? Forget about the whole how it's specifically going to be proof of stake instead of proof of work, but focus more on like the removal of the miners. Do you think that's going to affect the network in any way, shape, or form, like security wise, integrity wise, or what?
I do, of course. I mean, so there's two different routes you can go on this. So the bad news is obviously they're doing this for a reason, and it's probably not for a reason that is beneficial to the space in general. Because obviously, if you're getting rid of miners, you're essentially putting all of Ethereum in the hands of like pretty much the ultra wealthy or the whales at this point. But on the other token, it's like could be kind of positive because, potentially it could make Ethereum a little bit more secure. But obviously, when it comes to security, it's also a little bit more centralized when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it's good and bad, mostly bad, but sometimes good.
You think if we switch to proof of work, from proof of work to proof of stake, that because the new proof of stake, it could actually maybe be a benefit to security?
Potentially, but maybe from like a hack or exploitation perspective. But I mean, who's doing the exploiting? Yeah, who's doing the exploiting? It just switches from one side to the like the good side or the bad side to the good side or whatever. Right. So,
okay, Fido, what do you think about the whole purge aspect of it, removing the miners? Do you think it's good, bad, or what?
Well, I think it messes up the most successful protocol in terms of proof of work is Bitcoin, right? And the fact that the miners are an active participant of the consensus mechanism that makes Bitcoin what it is, to eliminate that, they're kind of the backbone of it, to a large degree. To eliminate that, for I think something that has not been proven at scale with a proof of stake system, it feels a lot like what we've talked about off camera. Like they're kind of just taking something that makes their protocol valuable out to the back shed and putting it out of its not misery, because there's a lot of people that have made a lot of money off of mining Ethereum. But let alone, I think they're to some degree handicapping their protocol by going this route and kind of obfuscating, I think that's the word, that it's better and it's an improvement to proof of work. But that's if you think that proof of work is bad in the first place, you know?
Why do you think, why is it that let's focus on this too? Because I guess, like, what is the whole point of switching to proof of work other than they say that they're going to be able to increase transaction speeds by like a small percentage, right? But what is like the biggest benefit that they're saying they're going to aim for the switch to proof of work?
It's greener.
Right. It's greener, right? And that's
greener.
It's going to be more efficient TM. I think last time you and me hopped on a stream and talked about this, it was like they said that 99.95% reduction in electricity cost from switching over to proof of stake. How they got that number, like I don't really know.
Made it up.
I mean, yeah, but let's just say it's not made up though. Like it probably, I don't know. That to me that sounds like a little, like you're basically going to get rid of 100% of the electricity consumption from that. I find that hard to believe, but let's just say that it is, and let's just say they're being truthful about it. So the whole point of it is to do what? Make it more green, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be benefiting in that aspect, but what are we losing? And I think what you were kind of like talking about, what you were alluding to was, yeah, so we're going to get these like benefits somewhere else, right? And that's if you think that proof of work itself is not a benefit, which they obviously don't, because it's not green, right? It's not efficient. So you have to think, like, with everything in life, especially with computer science, we all know this, especially with computer science, the blockchain trilemma is just the blockchain trilemma itself, right? Computer science and code too, it has its own kind of like trilemma. You can only pick and choose like the best of 2 out of 3. And if you're going to give up something for something else, what are you going to lose? That's the thing, right?
Right.
And I think we all kind of know what is at risk of being lost here. And I guess, I mean, at this point, we can only just wait and time will tell, right?
To the moon.
Snowman Mike's is to the moon. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean, I guess from a money, a US dollar value, I'm sure. I mean, I know institutions think that it's more safe TM to invest in now. They're not gonna be worried about like getting their carbon credits. Oops, I don't think we should have said that. The credits that are CARBONIZED, I guess they won't be worried about that, but who knows? Kyle, how do you feel about it? Do you have an opinion about this, Kyle?
Mine would come a little bit more from the tech side. I mean, it took me about over a year to get a 3080. So now that those have come down in price, that's nice. But as far as the other side of it, which would be like, how do you know, if it's going to be secure, or certain actors taking it over to try to go after people would be my concern on that.
Yeah, I think that's a valid concern. I don't know. For my opinion, I think you guys can already know. Like, I just think I kind of feel the same with you, Fido, on that. And Cody, like, yeah, you too. Like, to me, it seems like, and let me see if I can like be careful with how I say this, because I know we have to avoid no words. I think that in the last couple of years, a lot of things so for example, if you had a bill that was trying to be passed, and you were to call this bill the bill that reduces inflation. I'm not saying this actually happened or anything. I'm just saying theoretically in Minecraft, there was a bill to reduce inflation, but like, and they're telling you the whole benefit of this bill is because it's going to do this good thing. It's going to reduce inflation. Because like, dude, who wants inflation, right? Like, all of us don't want to constantly have our money devalued. But in the bill, like, it's not actually reducing inflation. Excuse me, it's actually doing the opposite. And I'm just using that as an example, okay? In the last couple of years, it seems to me that, and I want to refrain from kind of like keeping this political, but the last couple of years, it just seems to me that pretty much everything that's being pushed under like a certain hey, this is good for you. You guys, you didn't know this was good for you, but now you know, and here's why. It has led to a pretty negative consequence in the long run. And that's what I would be most concerned about. In particular, I've seen pictures and videos and things that Vitalik himself has tweeted lately in the last couple months that I was just like, dude, I don't know. This is kind of sus. Because I think I showed these tweets on the stream before, but I don't quote me on this. I don't remember them. But he was basically saying how he was having like an internal debate. He was debating himself on Twitter, guys, like the founder of Ethereum. And you got to think about this too.
Autism levels.
Yeah. You got to think about this too. The guy, he's like the Pope of Ethereum, right? Like, so if he says something, everyone's going to follow him. The other protocol that we were mentioning before, there's really no, I mean, there was a founder, a quote unquote founder, but we don't even know if that founder even exists. But that person isn't going to speak on like Twitter and like have everyone in the network follow along with him, right? This guy who's supposed to be the founder and for all intents and purposes, the Pope of this blockchain protocol is like arguing with himself on Twitter about, hey, like these original reasons why I wanted to create this blockchain network in the first place. I'm having a battle with myself as to whether or not I actually think that I agree with what he said in the quote. He used the word elites. He said he's using this word for lack of a better term, but he did say the word elites.
The quiet part out loud.
Yeah. He basically said like, hey, I made this blockchain. I'm kind of having an internal debate with myself right now as to whether or not I actually still believe in those original things that I created this blockchain for, because now I kind of feel like I believe, or my belief set is more aligned with the elites as to X, Y, and Z. And so to me, the biggest thing when I was reading that was like, okay, well, if you made this thing for a certain reason, and now you don't think that reason's important anymore, and you have all these upgrades that you're trying to like push on to the entire network from basically your idea, what are we all here? What are we doing? Like, what is the whole purpose here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. What I was thinking about is that there is a demand to develop with blockchain technology. First buzzword of the night. There's a demand to develop there, and I think despite them compromising their protocol, there will still be a lot of development that is gonna continue to happen on Ethereum. And to some extent, I think the reason why they're able to pull it off with their community, with the Ethereum community, is because they don't really, the value proposition for Ethereum is not the same that you can find in Bitcoin, right? So why do we like Bitcoin? It's because it's a very sound money. Okay. Right. Why do we like Ethereum? Because we could build stuff on top of it. Right. So I think despite the fact that it kind of actually depends on what field you're standing on. If you're looking at Ethereum as a sound money, it was already kind of compromised as that, but now it's pretty much that's non-existent, right? But then somebody who's on the Ethereum side, who's developing on Ethereum, would say, well, we don't really care about the soundness of the protocol. We really just want to build, and Bitcoin does not seem to make that easy for us.
Yeah, it hasn't facilitated it easily because like all of us here, we've all done in one way, shape, or form some kind of development on the Ethereum network, right? And none of us here are necessarily like, we haven't been around like developing smart contracts since day one. It took us a little bit of like a learning curve, but we were able to do just like the most basic things that you can, and then maybe a little bit slightly more complex. We're not doing anything or haven't done anything crazy. Don't let me speak for you guys, but yeah, specifically like myself here too. And what I know that you guys have done, it hasn't been like super hard to develop on. And since we all are basically kind of developers here in the tech space, that's the important part. Speaking of that, Fido, like what do you think is the biggest like hurdle? Like if this was all able to be done on Bitcoin, would that be a good thing or would that be a bad thing or what?
Well, so I think what I starting to realize is that you have to have a legitimate reason for needing a consensus mechanism that's decentralized. Otherwise, why are you developing it on a blockchain? It doesn't make any sense, because a decentralized protocol is inherently an inefficient technological choice to be making.
Yeah, it's
to
a
be
slow
supporting
database.
It's a slow database, right? So if there's not a legitimate reason for needing to actually utilize that application, or utilize that protocol and that for that utility, that what does it provide us? Well, what are, and I guess I'll ask to the panel, what is the benefit of utilizing a decentralized protocol?
Yeah, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, decentralization kind of leads to like lack of censorship is probably the big one in the room, right? Which
Right.
again, it's kind of like one of those things where you're trading like, you know, convenience for I guess security in this aspect, or convenience for actual decentralization and actual resistant or censorship resistant technology. So you can't really have both realistically, which is why I think a lot of the people who develop on Ethereum are kind of like, yeah, I mean, they're cutting the miners out, but think of all the stuff we can build with it. But then on the other hand, it's like, well, it's kind of just like the same thing we have now then. You know what I mean? Because it kind of
Yeah.
defeats the purpose of like, what DeFi was supposed to be, and like what Ethereum started out as. And now it's kind of like, all right, well, we're just going to do what we did on Web 2.0, and we're just going to move it to this new buzzword Web 3.0 for the most part.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And then what it ends up leading to is essentially a bunch of marketing schemes that are telling you, hey, we're decentralized only in name, right? But effectively somebody has an off switch somewhere, right?
mhm.
And I think inherently Bitcoin is kind of anti that, right? Because essentially, to build on Bitcoin, it's kind of like you're pretty much saying, hey, look, this is something that I'm gonna build, and I pretty much don't want anything to do with it after it's in the environment, right? Because at that point, by marketing it as as a centralized, like as a product, the thing that you're building as a product, it's kind of like it's pretty much, you pretty much have a group of developers in control of the project the entire time, just saying, hey, it's decentralized, and
Yeah.
therefore you should trust us,
It's decentralized,
Yeah.
but we're the only people that can.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah. I mean, look at like governance, for example. Like, I don't think there's a
Yeah.
governance protocol out there that didn't just say, "Oh, you know what? We're just going to pause the governance right now, and we're just going to make
Oops.
this decision because we have
right.
to." Like, you guys understand, right? You guys get
Dude,
it.
with
Like,
with the SANCTIONS, you guys know what I'm talking about? The Sank shuns.
yeah,
Those
Yeah.
things.
Oh, yeah.
You guys hear
the
about Maker?
shuns,
The
the shuns of
shuns.
Sank.
We can call them the shuns.
The
Maker
shuns.
DAO, dude. Maker, they didn't even have apparently didn't even have like a vote or anything like that to remove or to basically like blacklist the addresses that were shuns addresses. There was no like vote about it, and people were in the Maker forums were like, "Hey, what the fuck? Like, you guys just like did that, and you didn't like there was no like governance vote for it. What the hell, right?"
Yeah.
So, kind of goes to show you right there.
Yeah. So, and I think the market is kind of in a weird place because there is a necessity to innovate financial instruments that make these protocols more accessible. So that necessity is real, and that's why I think that sometimes that necessity can bleed into people's idealism, and a lot of people overlook the fact that maybe you'll see one or two things you're like, oh, I don't think that's right. I think that might be a rug, but you'll
Mhm.
overlook it because that necessity kind of fuels that idealism that, hey, look, we want to build something new. We want to build something outside of the confines of the current system, and in that process things get swept under the rug, and we kind of act like, or communities will act like, oh yeah, it's not that big of a deal, but when shit hits the fan, you see who's legit and who's not.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. All right, so I have this thing pulled up now. Let me find it. Good old Vitalik's contradiction tweets. So I found them, and I mean, there are a lot, so we won't read all through all of them, but I'll just show this to the audience so that they know, like, we're not just making this stuff up, and I guess kind of fill you guys in on too for what the actual verbiage that he used. But so he's saying contradiction between my love for things like decentralization and democracy and my realization that in practice, I agree with intellectual elites more than quote unquote the people on many, though definitely far from all, specific policy issues. Contradiction between my desire to see more countries adopting radical policy experiments, example crypto countries. I think he's talking about like El Salvador, and my realization that the governments most likely to go all the way on such things are more likely to be centralized and not friendly to diversity internally. Contradiction between my desire to see more diversity in cultures, asterisks, and my realization that maintaining a culture that's distinct from the mainstream seems blah, 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 blah. Contradiction between my dislikes of my modern financial blockchain, quote unquote, applications, so $3 million monkeys, etc., and my grudging appreciation for the fact that this what do you say? Hold on. The fact that stuff is a big part of what keeps the crypto economy running and pays for all my favorite cool DAO governance experiments. Anything else in here that sticks out? Desire for maximally simplifying layer one, desire to maximally simplify the whole ecosystem, contradiction between desire to be a positive sum mediator figure that can be everyone's friend, and my desire to stand strongly with good against evil. Those times when true evil is what we face. This first reply, this is a red flag. It sounds like someone is going to go woke. I mean, dude, the first thing that he said about, yeah, dude, the first thing that he was saying, I guess I lost it now, but when he was saying about the ELITE, I mean, I know lack of better words, but he just literally said like, hey, like I believe in decentralization. I have a contradiction now in my belief in decentralization and democracy, which is basically like a blockchain. And this isn't 100% correct. So whoever listens to this, like that's not correct. Blockchain, you can, if you're taking kind of concepts like governance into consideration, you consider it to kind of be like a democracy in cyberspace per se, right? Especially when you're talking about having to bring consensus in for making decisions. That's what that was for, right? We talk about, you mentioned Bitcoin, Fido. That's kind of the whole purpose of why that was created. And those rules kind of stay intact. The policy over at the Bitcoin network hasn't changed back and forth several times.
Yeah, there's too many. The incentive structure. Everybody is. Sorry, go ahead. I'll wait till you finish. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead, dude. Go ahead, because that was pretty much it.
I was just gonna say there's too many different people with actual input inside of what actually requires for Bitcoin to change in the first place. So everybody actually does legitimately have a say in the direction that Bitcoin goes. And the incentive structure in Bitcoin is essentially set up so that people can't, like, you'll come into conflict with somebody if you try to make a drastic change effectively, and no changes are going to be made unless anybody from the social consensus that's involved in the social consensus of Bitcoin agrees on, right? So it's not like there's like a foundation somewhere that says, hey, this is the direction that we're going to go. It's like there's ideas, and those ideas get battled out in the different parts of the network that are involved in the network. And if that idea does not make it through that filtration mechanism, then Bitcoin doesn't change. All right. And I think that, so like, just the fact that we're sitting here talking about a merge for Ethereum, and you don't really have a way to impact whether or not it goes in that direction, is kind of like, well, like, why do I want to participate in something that is just gonna? It's just like the system we have now to some degree, right?
Except worse, because they can like actually track every single thing that you do. I would say that it's like they basically took the original concept of these types of protocols, and then they would just be kind of like inverting it in on itself, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, man,
I think he got invited to a certain club and is now pending his acceptance.
Yeah,
he's trying a new lotion on his skin, and it's starting to glow a little bit, you know.
Yeah, he's got some nice exfoliant going on over there. Dude. So I hope that it doesn't end up being crappy, but what you guys were alluding to, basically, like in you too, Fido, with Bitcoin, you're not just incentivized because of several reasons. The biggest incentivization, or rather decentivization, for lying, cheating, stealing, trying to corrupt or put wrong data like in the network. So if your node's like, hey, no, this balance has like 5,000 Bitcoin. Aside from that, the miners themselves that are taking the transactions and concatenating them at the end of the block, that all needs to be paid with actual electricity, right? So
Yeah.
are you gonna be on the side of the minority of people in the network that is not going to bring a consensus and is just going to boot you off after you paid $20,000 for electricity to mine some Bitcoin that you're no longer going to be able to mine? You're not going to, right? And that's proof of work. Proof of stake, that's not really an issue, right? So I wonder how many validators that they're going to have, like the staking validators that they're going to have in total. I guess we'll have to find out whenever that comes. But I know that a lot of them are bigger companies like Coinbase and stuff. You guys heard anything about that?
I bet they already got them picked out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And on top of that, if anybody is an average Joe and wants to run their own validator node, they need 32 Ethereum, right? What is the price
32.
right now? Just 32, bro.
No big
What's
deal.
the price right now? $1,400. Let's see. Let's say $1,450. So you just need just everyone that wants to do it. Super easy. You just need $46,000. I think every single person in the world has 46 grand of Ethereum just chilling right now.
Of course, I had that since I was like 10 years old. Like,
yeah, dude, duh. Come on, dude. Come on. Well, I guess we're gonna have to see. I want to stay hopeful because, like, I actually do enjoy smart contract development, and I liked being able to develop in this space. It kind of felt like cool. It's been cozy at home, but like I wonder, is the network with the largest growth and the largest development on it, at least as far as things like DeFi. I like DeFi. DeFi is cool and fun. It was right before. I mean, if this happens, it might. I mean, maybe I'll just stay on Binance Smart Chain. I don't know, but but I would like to think that it's not going to be all doom and gloom. What do you guys think? Would you guys still be interested in participating in development with all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely going to. I think a lot of cool stuff is gonna potentially come from this. I mean, I kind of work in the space now, and it's like there's a lot of cool stuff coming on the horizon. But it's like, again, I'm conflicted, like poor Vitalik. It's like I like to see the cool stuff that comes, but I know what that means. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. I think from like a practical perspective, you just kind of need to know the playground that you're in, like if you're going to be doing development in that space, then it's like, okay, well, it is what it is, but I like I said, I think the demand for innovation is there. So I think some of it will continue to be on Ethereum regardless. But I also think that there will be people who are disgruntled enough with it that will maybe I don't know that will make
classic.
Yeah, or because I think that there's just not I don't know why Bitcoin just doesn't attract like more innovations on it on it. I don't know why, but it seems like the younger developers are, well, I don't know if it's an age thing as well, but it just seems to me that they're like the focus on development. It is on Ethereum, and despite Bitcoin being better for a lot of reasons, I'm not so certain that many people are going to make the shift and start trying to develop projects on Bitcoin. It just, I don't know.
It's harder too. It's harder to be able to do it.
Yeah, well, you're pretty much not doing anything on the chain. I mean, everything is you're not interacting with the chain. I mean, maybe to some degree, but everything is, you're pretty much there. It's all layer 2 stuff. You're
it's just basically straight roll ups, and it's not like the biggest like the biggest layer 2 right now on Bitcoin is the Lightning Network, right?
The Lightning Network, yep.
But the sole purpose for the Lightning Network isn't to be able to run smart contracts. It's to just send instant payments that get settled on the layer 1 later, right?
Yep.
There's RSK network, and that's basically like an EVM compatible layer 2 Bitcoin network. And like I've used some dApps on there, and like I've looked. There's probably only like in total combined. I think at one point in the midst of all the market hysteria, when all the waters were rising, I think there was maybe like $3 or $4 million total, locked in that layer 2. Now it's like 1 million.
Oh, wow.
Even that. Nobody even knows about RSK network. Like no one even knows about it, right? So it's just all the ones that are there, they're all small. And RSK actually is interesting though. It has a lot of like they go really into detail and in depth if you go through their documentation, which they actually have not so bad documentation.
Okay.
Go figure. But they go in a lot of details about like the nitty-gritty about how it's more secure to be here as somewhere else. And they have some stable coins that they claim are they're algorithmically generated stable coins, but they're algorithmically backed, not from like something that they just made, like Luna, right? Like this UST stablecoin is based off of Luna, something else that was just made by the network. Their stablecoins are backed by Bitcoin via some kind of like I don't remember, but if you go look, it's actually backed by Bitcoin. And they went a lot into that too.
I know that's really cool, and I know that the developers that were behind Bitcoin Beach and El Salvador, they're now they're now seeking to build a stable coin that is Bitcoin backed. And part of the the thing is that if you're going to be developing on Bitcoin, the reason why you're developing on Bitcoin is because you want to augment or you want to facilitate the process that it's used for, which is digital cash, peer-to-peer exchanges. So if it's contained within the framework that we're somehow going to add some sort of like the protocols that's set in stone, you're not going to change that, right? But it's ways of facilitating the use case of that protocol that I think is a reason why you would want to go out to develop on Bitcoin. Otherwise, I mean, we're going to continue to see on Ethereum, like a lot of people who are not familiar with the technology being sold a bunch of buzzwords, them buying into it, and really the developers and the team behind whatever projects are essentially just generating cash grabs while selling it as something that that's innovative and is actually making a change in the landscape. Despite the fact, so is there going to be development? Yes. To what degree can you trust the development that's going to be done on Ethereum as it actually ever being legitimate again? I think when essentially what's supporting the rest of the technologies that are going to be built on it is in question. I think that reverberates across any layer that you build. So I mean, there's probably going to still be use cases for development on Ethereum, but there's a lot of compromise that goes on there.
How much can you actually trust it?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a hard pill to swallow because I've spent the better half of the past year starting to think that I should pivot more and more to Web3, and to some extent, I mean, you guys see the stuff on my channel. You know, I mean, there is legitimate logic and code that is backing this stuff, right? I just think it doesn't make it rug proof, you know?
Yeah, and I think what you were saying earlier too, if we just don't pretend like it's something that it's not, then if we all just go in it knowing like, okay, this is what it is, it's not really going to be as decentralized as what people were saying before. Since a lot of these since a lot of the front end of these dApps are like hosted on fucking AWS or something, like they could just disconnect your front end. And the average person, I mean, they disconnect the dApp's front end. The average person is not going to be able to go, be able to make like callbacks and smart contracts and just like stake from their wallet address themselves, right?
Dude, and I was gonna say, that's so funny that you mentioned that. I was gonna say, you know where they really dropped the ball is that when I don't know if this is of any of the
Spell it if you have to.
the spinny with
the hurricane money.
The hurricane money
platform.
when that got rugged, and there was essentially no community, like the community pretty much was. That's when it really hit me in the gut, because I was like, wait, what the isn't this like the exact thing? Like, if the community would have had a more of a like angry response to that and legitimate be like, yo, what the is going on? Like, this is like, that would have been a different thing, because then you'd be like, okay, well, the community seems to have their head straight. That didn't happen. Everybody just kind of swept it under the rug. What is it? Cody likes to say memory hold.
Memory hold.
Like
a lot of things.
And then you're just like, what the fuck? Like, dang. Like, and I guess you don't care. You probably don't care if you don't think about if how do I say this? Cody, you said it the other day. It's like you probably don't care if you don't care if you don't care about, like, come back to me. I'm trying to get to a point.
I care though, even if I wasn't going to be using it. Like, you know, what I was saying before in the GitHub is lying to you video that I did, because GitHub pissed me off.
Yeah,
when that was going on too. Like, they just removed, hey, we're GitHub. We support open source. TM. Look at all these things that we do that support open source. TM. Even though the thing that we're doing is actually going to be not advantageous to open source at all, it's actually going to be harmful to it. But just forget about that. We support open source TM, and then they go and remove open source code. And by the way, we never even figure out how you can SANCTION like a smart contract. So I wonder how that's going to like work out in if it goes to court. But I care about that because I think it's fucking stupid to it's fucking stupid to me. I'll just say it. It's fucking stupid to be like, hey, this is McDonald's. You come here to get hamburgers and Diet Cokes and fries. And then the next day they're like, Diet Cokes and hamburgers and fries, they're actually not bad for you, or they're actually not good for you. They're bad for you, and they're bad for the environment. So when you come to McDonald's now, this fast food, delicious, nutritious restaurant, you're actually going to get grass now instead of McDonald's. Like, I'd be like, dude, then why the fuck? Like, what are we doing? Why is this McDonald's? Like, I'll just go to the fucking grass outside my building if I want to eat that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a really good metaphor, and that actually helped me refresh what I was trying to say. Is that if you're just in the game to generate money off of what's going on, the opportunities will continue to be there. That's 100% for sure. But if you care about preserving the mechanisms that actually make this technology an innovation for mankind, then you see that there's compromises being made everywhere.
Yeah. You care about actually using it for what it was made for.
Yeah. And I think that if you have that moral compass installed, it's very hard to see what's going on and be like, man, this is, people are just going to get fucked again. And in the next run. So
Sam's comment. Yeah, it's true. I guess I'm going to try to remain neutral positive about it, but I'll be honest, I'm leaning more towards negative - neutral than neutral positive. But okay, guys, both Cody and I have spent too much time in the woods this weekend. And so that's why when we began the stream, we're still in the woods. We're still in the woods mentally right now. So do you guys have any final words for the audience tonight, other than fuck you, Vitalik? Just kidding.
I would just say, going forward into this Ethereum merge, obviously do it with caution, because this is a lot of the stuff that happened during the whole DeFi, I guess the fall of DeFi, if you will. That is going to happen exponentially more. So just be careful of who you're believing and who you're basically staking your ideology in. Another buzzword. Just understand what you're getting into. Just be really cautious. It's not the Wild West anymore, unfortunately. And there's going to be a lot of things that are going to rug, to be quite frank. So just keep that in mind going forward.
Fido,
tread lightly.
Tread lightly. Yeah. And just to piggyback off of what Cody said, what we like to say, don't trust, verify. It's very important. I think
Yes.
that's
We
really
should probably try to
important.
remember that more often.
And,
Yeah.
and a verify shouldn't be like, oh, the CEO on Twitter just said everything's cool. so
The
we're
Snopes
good.
verified TM.
Yeah. Go look at the code if you have any type of understanding of code and be like, wait a minute. Like, actually look at it. Or just listen to people that know what the code says and just be like, I should probably pay attention to these guys.
What is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
blacklist function here in this contract?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kyle?
Who oh, go ahead, Kyle.
Oh no, pretty much I would say that everybody's right on the money on that. Yeah, just be careful with what you're doing and just always do the research.
Fido, you wanted to finish up what you were saying? Who was what?
No, I was gonna say, who would have thought critical thinking is so important, right? Just seriously, like a recommendation that I would have is, guys, find as many people that you think have legitimate information and have like those ideas conflict as well, because it's really good to when you get to the point where you're like, I'm not just a soundbite anymore. I think I can reasonably say that that this is right and that that's wrong. And when you can do that, you're gonna get a better compass. Because I just hate seeing people getting rugged, man. I think it's so bad. It's so bad, and a lot of people got taken advantage of in the last bull market. So ideally, we could avoid that in the future, but probably not.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
Well, guys, we hope you learned something about the merge, the Splurge, the Plurge, the Verge. Hey, hopefully it's actually not a purge of developers like us. We'll find out. Stay tuned for another time where we discuss how much we love Vitalik Buterin. Good night, everyone.